The topic today is onboarding, which when I say it like that, it sounds really boring, but I actually think it's a really, really cool topic. So new member onboarding though, sincerely, I really like this topic. I think it's a super cool topic. I think probably because there's so much we can do. And I don't think there's many organizations that are doing nearly what they could be doing, and which is why I like this. I also think it has a direct impact on first year member retention, which is always the lowest. So here's the next question I have for you. And while you're writing this out, this is when the next dad joke's going to come out. My next question for you is this. If you know it, if you don't know it, don't bother putting it in. It's okay. Or maybe you just know your overall retention. But what I'm really curious about is what is your first year member retention versus your, ideally everyone else, but if not everyone else, your overall member retention. First year member retention versus overall member retention. I think from my experience, like 95%, 95% of associations know their retention rate. It's still kind of surprising. I know it can be a little tricky, but it still surprises me a little when some organizations do not. And I found about a third of associations know what their first year retention rate is. And so I'm curious to see what pops up here. And while you're posting that, here's my favorite dad joke in a long time. I've had this one on my desk for a while because it just makes me smile every time I look at it. And it's one where I'm gonna have to hold it up. I'm gonna put it into the camera as well. But this is it. My 3 favorite things are eating my pets and not using commas. No commas makes it a much different sentence. I love that one. Another punctuate, another grammar joke. All right. We're gonna get into, yes, feel free if you're eating lunch. I'm really glad you guys are all here. We've got a nice group here today. Before we get into the topic, and I'm hoping we get a few more retention rates because that'd be really, really interesting to see. Not critical, but interesting. Again, topic's new member onboarding. But I want to let you guys know that this group that we've created together is 916 people big. Now, what that means, I don't really know. I don't see a heck of a lot of interaction in the LinkedIn community. And I say this every time. I just think it's the nature of LinkedIn. The groups just don't stimulate a lot of activity. And so this to me is kind of the value of that LinkedIn group is getting the alert that we have another one of these things coming up. So you guys are taking advantage of it. Before we get into topic, is there anything else you guys would like to see us do with the LinkedIn group? Feel free to just unmute and speak up. Anything we're not doing that we should be doing better in the LinkedIn group? All right, we're perfect. All right, let's see what we got. 60% first year, 90% overall. That's incredible. Hey, Marshall, for when I see a big difference like that, and Julie, you too. So Julie and Marshall, follow-up question for you. Do you find that you're getting a lot of new members related to a conference? Yes, Julie's nodding. Where's Michael? What did I say? Was it Michael? Julie, Marshall, I'm sorry, Marshall. Oh, I see you, Marshall. Not, yes, no? Is it related? It's not related to a conference. Marshall, you got to explain this one. Unmute. Why do you think there's such a big gap?
I'd say because we currently don't have an onboarding process in place. We are just now delving into membership marketing from our standpoint. So I think we're losing a lot just to the ether because of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge opportunity then. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you know why people don't renew of those 40% that are leaving in the first year? Do they give you a reason why?
Once again, benchmarks that haven't been established. Our organization's just now, like I said, delving into membership marketing. They've had it's just kind of been status quo to this point, and just kind
Okay.
of allowing things to operate as they do. So, getting us in place to run this strategy is kind of vital.
Marshall, forgive me, I can't see the full name. Are you currently using Propule?
I'm not. We've done demos, but we
Okay.
have not gone in.
Yeah, I certainly don't mean, this is not a sales pitch. And by the way, I've said this before. I didn't say it today, so I'm gonna say it again. This is not a Propule event, but we're not going to avoid it because I own Propule. So like occasionally it's going to come up in conversation. And some of you, I think a lot of you guys are Propule customers. So you come in here with stories and stuff. So this is not a Propule event. It's not a Propule webinar, and I'm not here to sell Propule. But Marshall, I'm asking that because if you are a Propule customer and you're having that challenge, shame on us. So that's why I asked that one. All right, Julie, you have a conference that drives a lot of new members, and then
Yeah,
after the I'm assuming you're giving them a discount, and after the conference, they don't see the value in sticking around.
we actually give them 1 year of membership free,
Yeah.
and then they don't stick around. And I think a big part of it is we haven't had a complete onboarding process for those members.
And Julie, who are you with?
Society of Tribology and Lubrication Engineers.
Okay. For those of you, I see a couple people that haven't. If you haven't put the acronym or your full name of the association after your name, just go to the 3 dots. Is that the ellipses, I think, next to your name? And I think there should be an option for rename. All right. I have some questions that I'd like to walk through. And by the way, for those of you that knew the overall versus first year, there's just no surprise. I mean, it's common knowledge. First year is always going to be a lower retention rate. All right. Before we get into these questions, do any of you have something that you want to ask the group about new member onboarding? Any challenges or specific problem or something you're working on that you want to improve?
Hi, my name's Alicia. I'm with CIC, Council of Independent Colleges. I'm curious if people are only reaching out to their members by email, or are they reaching out by phone or text or any other way?
Just unmute and jump in. I'm sure we could do chat. Laura, what do you got?
Hi, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand, so I probably won't be able to put it down, but we are still sending a welcome kit in the mail. Oh, I have it here. It looks like this. Um, I like to send something. We have about 11,000 members. It obviously only goes to the new members. Um, I'm wondering if anyone else is sending something tangible, what you're sending, how it's received. Are there any other ideas? Our kit contains a letter from our CEO and the chair, and then a card that gives you instructions how to get everything online, and then this calendar, which is, I'm not sure it makes sense anymore because a lot of people don't have desks. Well, maybe you have a desk at home if you have a shared workspace at the office, but it has your name on every, you can't really see it here, but it's got your name on every month. So we thought if it's got your name, you're less likely to throw it out because it's something that says your name. Unfortunately, we can't have it personalized to have our dates on it. That doesn't work. But you know, that's what we have had for a long time now. But I'd like to see what other people are sending. We'd really like to revamp it.
Anybody else sending something? And then we're going to get back to the original question, which is what else are you doing besides email? I think that was the original question. So Liz, are you sending something also?
We are, as a matter of fact, can you hear me? Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
So I work for Selected Independent Funeral Homes. We're a rather smaller association, like 400 to 500 members. So we don't have, our new members are maybe 15 to 25 a year. So we have the beauty of doing a 1 hour Zoom new member orientation with all of our members, but we do send a welcome kit as well with a plaque. And we were having a hard time getting members to actually schedule that orientation until we told them they would not receive the welcome packet or the plaque until they completed their orientation. And that bumped us up last year to 100% of orientations done. So we send some sample, we send a letter, obviously welcoming them, the plaque, some window decals, and then just some information about some of our programs and services.
Is the plaque personalized? Is any of that personalized?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else send stuff? We do. I know we're not an association, but I want to share it with you anyway, because I'm proud of it and we've been doing this forever. When we get a new client, so for numbers perspective, we'll probably get, Propfuel gets about 80 to 100 new clients a year for the past few years. Each client then has a handful of users, and each user gets a welcome kit once they go live. So a few months into using the platform, when they actually have what we call graduate, and it used to be when they go live with the campaign, they get this kit. Yep. Hello.
So employment verification.
Thank you. Hi, Jamila. Jamila. Anyway, so this is the kit. It comes with, I try to make it look real pretty. I'm still doing these myself because I enjoy doing it. I write a little note on this Propfuel thing. Welcome. So this is about what I say, about 100. So there's probably about 200 to 300 of these a year. So each week I spend a little time doing this. Get a fun T-shirt, get a hat. We get a choose your own adventure book, which is with a custom bookmark in there. Choose your own adventure book, which is kind of an analogy or metaphor to what it is Propfuel does. A few stickers. You get this little Propfuel microfiber cloth, a pad, and then a book. Well, kind of a book. All about the philosophy of conversational engagement. So the goal here is to help get people enthused for what it is that they've signed on for. What I'd like to do, and this is a challenge for you guys, I've heard it's not a gift if your logo's on it. And I think we're all, associations and vendors alike, we're all like highly likely to be sending stuff out with our logos on it. And so we got to ask ourselves, I think I have to ask myself, what is the purpose of this? Is it to build some loyalty? Is it to celebrate something? Or is it because we want them to have something useful? One last comment on that. When I look around, and I have some stuff in my kitchen, a cutting board, a knife, but when I look around my desk, I'm looking at some things that I know people gave me, no logo, but I know every time I look at it, I know where it came from, which I think is really, really interesting. What if your association were to send somebody something that was just really nice? No logo. Rhetorical question there.
Dave, you know what? I mean, I always remember you from the kits that you send me. And I think it's that personal connection that really is important. And we don't do it. And I hear you. I mean, even just something like, even if it doesn't have your logo, although I wouldn't do it without the logo, but with a note saying, so glad that you've joined Pyra, or, and because I think about you because I've gotten your kits. I saw someone didn't get their Propfuel kit. I'm sure you'll send it right away. But
that happens. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I just think of you all the time. I use the things you send me. So I think it's that personal connection that we can start developing with our members. If we have that budget, that'd be great.
Look at this one. This one came back to me from the post office. I've stopped using USPS, by the way. I've given up. And if anyone knows Nicole Harris, I can't remember off the top of my head what association that is, but like that happens. Like these things will come back and then I send them a note and there's no response. So yes, if you are a client, you have not received one and you've gone through graduation, gone live, send me a note. I'd appreciate it if you could send me, I'm sorry to derail the conversation. Send me an email, dave@propfuel.com. Send me your name, address, and ideally t-shirt size, and I'll take care of it. Virginia, tell Nicole I have her package. She's got to respond to me though if she wants it. I need an accurate address. I'll send her another note. All righty. Okay, going back to the original question, what else do you do besides email? We've gotten now into email and gifting. What else? Laura, how many new members do you get a year?
Around 2,000.
Wow. Who sends all those out?
A mail house.
Sorry, say it again.
A mail house. We don't do
Okay,
it.
so you outsource that. That's
Yes.
good. Yeah. Yeah, if I had to send 2,000 of these, I'd figure out a way to automate it or outsource it too. Be a lot harder to get those personalized notes in there. Okay, what else are we doing besides email, Lily?
I don't know how successful it is, but I put together, because we offer professional development. That's one of our main value propositions. So I put together this professional development goal worksheet that the intent is that they start thinking about what they want to show mastery in the next month, and kind of plan that out for themselves. Either if it's we have individual membership and we just started corporate style membership, so it might be just for themselves, or so, and it's something easy. I could just email out. It's a goal worksheet. So that's I'm not sure if we talked about something like that. I'm still like, I don't have the budget to send anything out, which would be nice because that take home, even that cool t-shirt. But so yeah, a goal worksheet.
I like the tangibility of that. And one more thing, and Rachel, I got you in a second. In addition to that, Lily, the tangibility of like work related, like this is going to help you professionally, but also it requires their active participation, which I think is pretty cool. It's one thing to give something that then they put on their desk. It's another thing to give somebody something that's not really a gift, but more like an engaging activity. Rachel, what'd you have?
I just wanted to add that we do calls for our new members. It varies pretty largely from month to month. Some months we may have like 30 to 40, but sometimes if there's like an expo or some kind of event, a promotion that we're doing, I mean, we had one where we had, I want to say closer to like 150 members in a month. But we do a call, we do an email, and then what we're hoping to add is pre-recorded videos to kind of walk them through their portal. We do send out mailers. We're in the process of slimming that down. Less papers, more QR codes. And then what I would love to do, and we're working on, is doing a monthly onboarding Zoom call. That way we can focus on more quality stuff when and if we get them on the phone. So we're trying to do a lot, and mainly revamping a lot right now, but we do have calls that we do.
I saw some, yeah, John.
So we're a smaller association as well, and so right now when an institution joins for us, and we deal with colleges and universities, and it's an organization-wide membership. So when they join, usually it's just the primary contact for the membership, but any of the folks that are going to be listed on the membership can participate in this. But I'll schedule in the first week an onboarding Zoom meeting, and the bulk of it is me sharing my screen and walking through how to access all the resources and benefits that are included in the membership. obviously they could go through our website and do that themselves, but usually I'll give more of a narrative behind each of those items. And what I find is always ends up happening at the end is they're like, wow, I didn't know all this was included in my membership. And so that right there, we've gotten their attention. You know, they get inundated with a lot of, emails all the time. And so I've just, felt like, hey, if someone just at least points it out to them, that they know, they've been told. Now, whether they recall that later is something that we're dealing with as well. But the other thing that I'm trying to incorporate in these now is to offer, hey, who can I connect you with among our membership? And usually that's where if I've identified like, hey, they're at a pain point or they've joined because they're planning on going out to bid for a particular software solution. I'll try and get them connected with at least one or more institutions that are dealt with the same issue.
John, you made me think of something, and I'm curious if you're doing this because I know you are using Profule. Let me take a step back. You used a word in there that triggered something for me.
Okay.
Some of my trigger words. You said we told them something, and there's nothing wrong with telling people. We got to do that. We're always telling people things. But the problem, I think, with a lot of new member onboarding programs, and Lily knows this. Lily and I have had many, many conversations about this, but one of the problems with most new member onboarding programs is we're always telling people things. We're just constantly talking at the new member. And I use this analogy a lot. If you've ever been to one of the webinars I do, I describe a situation where you have a new member that walks into your office wearing a sign around their neck that says, I'm a new member. And they just walk in your office. What do you do? In real life, what would you do? Anyone, just spit it out. What would you do if somebody came in and you just somehow identified them, you know they're a new member?
Thank them. Tell them thank you.
Okay, then what?
I want to know their pain points. I want to know what prompted them to join in the first place.
Yeah, okay. So you're cheating because you're doing this, I think. But
Well,
that's exactly right. Like in real life, yes, Alicia, you're gonna say, hey, thank you. I'm so glad you're a new member. But the conversation doesn't end there. That I would argue that's kind of a prompt. Then you're gonna say, how can I help you? How can I serve you better? How can we help you progress in your career? Why did you join? You're gonna ask them something so that you can find a relevant point of contribution for them, something that's relevant. But most organizations don't have any idea why somebody joined. And so what they do is they send this email. I'm getting a little agitated already. I know this is what I mean. Like, John, it's a trigger, which it shouldn't be so much. I shouldn't get so emotional about it. But most organizations send out a collection of emails. Either it's one or it's a drip campaign of emails, just machine gunning content at members. And so what happens? Eventually, those members start to ignore the email because they have more important, more relevant stuff they need to take care of. And then at a certain point, they're no longer even opening the email, or if it's open, they just hit delete before they read it respectfully. I'm sure they don't dislike you. It's just you've completely lost relevance for them right now. Occasionally, if I have time and I'm feeling like I'm in the mood or I've had enough caffeine, I might skim the email. And usually, and I can tell you, EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, is one of my associations. They do that too. Drives me bonkers, but sometimes I read it, and every time I do, there's something of value. But the trick is getting me to read it. So that's what who here is, and there's a little bit of a trick question because if you're using Profule, I suspect you are, but who here is actually asking their members a question in the new member onboarding process? Good. Looks like half or so. All right. Really, that was just you saying me. Is that what that was? I think it was. Okay. Gosh, there's so much
Hey,
in the,
Dave,
yes, yes, yes. Hi,
just to
Lily.
kind of, I guess, comment on what you just said, and I think it was John who was talking about it. What I do for the orientation is I do a poll and I ask them. So I try to make the orientation as interactive as possible. I don't know if this is helpful. I put a poll up and I focus on what the attendees want to know because every month it's a little different. Each member has a different goal. And so I'll try to focus on that. And the other thing I do is I bring in a volunteer leader from one of our different chapters and have them talk about their experience. So, there's just more interaction. And then, so that kind of helps with the just kind of, because I'll talk anybody's ear off as I am now, so I'll shut up. But yeah, it's just kind of letting other people talk as much as possible as well in the orientation.
Something I just thought about. I don't think I've ever heard of this happening. Has anybody ever tried doing something like this in their association? I mean, maybe this is what you call a SIG or something, but I'm wondering for some associations, I wonder if it would make sense just to have a monthly roundtables. Has anybody ever tried that? Yeah, Liz? You guys and Lily, you have?
We
So
do
I-
a peer exchange. Yeah.
So yeah, I have a mastermind background. I worked for a mastermind organization
Oh man.
running mastermind meetings. So I started one here at Selected. It's quarterly, not recorded. And it's been growing and growing and growing. I call it linking leaders. So they just get together. I pull them, all the registrants, like a couple days before, and just say, what topics do you want to throw out to the group? I have some in my back pocket in case they don't come up with any, but they most always do. So I'm always sweating. How am I going to keep them talking for an hour? And almost always I have to cut them off. So yeah, it's been.
Oh my God, Liz, I could talk for an hour. I don't need you guys here.
Yeah.
I could have a whole workshop just by myself.
But it's been beneficial to us too, because we like to use our members a lot in our content and our bulletin and our newsletter. So topics come up that I can then take back and, interview members about, or we've designed other, programs around what their pain points seem to be from the discussions in this meeting. So it's been great.
I saw somebody in here does voicemail drops, debatably illegal, but I'm not gonna make that argument. Enough people do them, and there's enough companies providing it that I could make the case you're probably not going to get in trouble, even if it is illegal. Who here, show of hands, who's doing voicemail drops? Just Anna? Huh. Seems
Someone
like
else,
every
someone else
time.
put it in the chat. I know they might just not
Okay.
have a hand.
Yeah, taking a bite of the sandwich. Every time I see that pop up and collaborate in the ASA community, it's like it gets so much buzz. If there was a way to ask questions, I think we would incorporate. And if my partner wasn't adamant that it's illegal, then we'd probably figure out a way to incorporate that into prop fuel, but that is not going to happen.
I think you do have to be very careful about how you're doing it. If you're doing it, we did get approval from our legal team to do it with like a limited ability, but you really have to look at the TCPA laws and educate yourself on that, as well as like have like some kind of a universal opt-in, especially if you're looking for like recruitment purposes.
Yeah, well, it's good you got actual lawyers and not just people with hunches looking at that. I'm meaning
Yes.
I'm the person with a hunch. I'm not I'm not accusing you of making decisions on a hunch. All
No,
right. Before
understood. It's been really, oh, sorry. I was
No,
just
no,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
it's been really beneficial for our like renewal campaigns, having that additional touch point. We've received a lot of really positive feedback.
I'm reading through some of these comments. All right, one more time I'm going to ask, is there anything else you guys are doing? Then I'm going to move into some of these questions that we curated in advance. I just put them in there again. Anything else And I'm sure some of this is gonna be answered already when we go through these questions, but anything else you're doing in the new member onboarding process? Is anybody doing a net promoter score or some sort of customer satisfaction? Yeah, Marie? When do you do that in the first year?
So we launched a new member onboarding campaign in PropFuel last year. And the net promoter question is about 6 months in.
Yeah.
And so we asked people, I actually have it pulled up. Let me see if I can find the actual wording.
It should be
Um,
it should be pretty canned. That's
Would you recommend membership in our association to a colleague? What could we do better? And then if they're under a certain number, then it triggers an email to our membership team to follow up and figure out what is the obstacle to them feeling like they're getting value out of their membership. And if it's high enough, then we ask if we can if they can provide a testimonial for us. But we felt like 6 months was a pretty good point to check in with them and kind of gauge like how are they feeling so far about membership and if there's any way that we can help them before it becomes renewal season.
yeah. I'm gonna explain NPS in 60 seconds for I don't want to embarrass anyone that doesn't know, but I suspect because sometimes there's a little confusion around what Net Promoter Score is. It was created by a guy that worked for I think it was Bain Consulting back in the day in the 80s and 90s. And I actually interviewed him in a podcast. It was fascinating. Fred Reichhold is his name. And it's a score of 0 to 10. There's never any intent to suggest that this is the end all question. It's just one question that leads to more dialogue that gives you a sense for what's happening in a group and with an individual. And I believe personally that the vast majority of the value comes from the second part, which Marie touched on. That was Marie, right? Okay. That Marie touched on, which is what could we do better? Or how could we make the experience better? But you can get a little creative with that second question. I think the official NPS question is what could we do to improve your score or improve your rating? Now, the calculation of the Net Promoter Score is promoters minus detractors. Yes, promoters, the percentage of what is it? Shoot. I used to know this so in and out. Brittany, will help. Is it percentage of promoters? Yes, I think it's a percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors.
I'm going to confirm that.
Yeah, thank you. But so in other words, in promoters are 9s and 10s.
It's a percentage.
Thank you. Promoters are 9s and 10s. Detractors are 0 through 6, I think, and 7 and 8. You kind of ignore them. They're just passives is what they're called. So you have promoters and detractors, percentage of promoters minus percentage of detractors. Your Net Promoter Score can be anywhere from 100 to negative 100. Everybody always asks, what's a good Net Promoter Score? A good Net Promoter Score is one that's better than your last one. These are intended to be a score that you compare to yourself over time. However, I find most associations are somewhere in like the 50 range. All right. Anyone want to add anything about Net Promoter Score? Yeah, it's not really that fascinating. All right. And I'd like to go to this question. Anybody figured out how to use, gosh, automation is very broad. I mean, drip marketing campaigns are automation, prop fuels automation. Aside from drip marketing or prop fuels, anybody figured out how to use automation or AI to enhance onboarding more? Think about scaling, because the question before that is how do you make onboarding feel personal at scale, which is really, really hard. Actually, I want to answer that one in a minute. So automation and AI, anybody doing something clever with automation or AI? No. All right, at risk I don't want to speak too much here because I want you guys to contribute, but I'm so excited. I want to tell you some of the stuff. Like, okay, so ASAE, this is an example of what I've seen done really, really well. ASAE asked the question, what is something you're looking to get out of your membership this year? That was their new member onboarding question. One of the options was, I want to get my CAE. If I remember correctly, 13% of the people that joined ASAE selected the CAE as their option. So those 13%, they went into a holding pattern. And there was an automated campaign where 3 months later, another question would go out to them saying, hey, remember when you told us getting your CAE was a goal you wanted to accomplish this year? How's it going? Now, there's a lot of ways you could make it better, I think, than just that. But this one, I think sometimes there's a trade-off between ease, like making it easy to make and roll out versus making a super complicated and really good campaign. So they went with the easy and get it out the door. Sometimes good and done is better than perfect and not done. So 3 months later, a question goes out, how's it going? And I think it's like multiple choice and then an open-ended thing. And one person wrote in the open-ended thing, man, I'm really struggling to get my hours, 100 hours to get your CAE, 100 hours of learning. And she's like, I'm a single mom, and this is really tough. I don't know what else to do. And Amy at the time was in charge of membership at ASAE, and she saw this pop up as a question. She got an alert saying, hey, somebody was telling you something. She read it and responded back to her and said, hey, I was a single mom too. I get it. Showing empathy, human connection, real personalization here. If you want, I can help you find those courses, but I can't change the hours for you. I'm sorry. And she came back like a week or two later saying, somehow I got it done. I got my 100 hours in. So I tell that story because what they did is a high level of personalization for the people that needed it and when they needed it. So scale means automation, and then triggering flags when you need to insert a human for empathy and connection. And that's what I think is beautiful about AI and automation, is that when done right, it's flagging the human, say, hey, I need you over here. You ever go to checkouts at a grocery store and like you're doing your self-checkout thing and there's like 6 or 7 self-checkouts, but one person kind of manning those when they need to be called in? Same philosophy. So nobody's using AI. All right. Well, if you're building campaigns at Propio, you are, because you click the blueprint thing, and what it does is taps into your membership benefits, and it's creating all of those messages and all of the landing pages for you based on what's on your website and what your objectives are. I'd be surprised if other systems don't have some sort of content creation like that as well. So if you're still creating all the content on your own, I think there's an opportunity there. All right, I like this question. What's been most effective? We're at 1:41. We have a little 19 minutes left. I'd like to make it 15 minutes and take a couple minutes to see what else you want to talk about in future roundtables. So 15 minutes left and a couple questions. Before I go into the next question here, anything you've thought of that you want to ask the group? Something you
Have we
want to
talked
share?
about how long the onboarding process is for people? I'm curious to know like what the length is for most of you.
Come on. Now you got
Are people
12 months.
typing?
Okay.
Okay, one year.
So it goes right through renewal.
Yeah, our onboarding goes 10 months into the first renewal. Check-in and all of it is in Prop Fuel, or I'm building it in Prop Fuel right now. But it does go 10 months.
I was just looking for my book, Elevating Engagement, Amanda Kaiser, and I got a whole bunch of plants, which I put up on my, what used to be a bookshelf, so I can't find it right now. But Elevating Engagement, Amanda wrote that book, and she has a lot to say about onboarding in that book. And she says that the first, what is it, 2 weeks, I think, are critical to getting new members in the door. I've met a lot of organizations prior to Propule, like when we bring them on, their existing new member onboarding might be 3 months. Our typical recommendation is go the full year. More than 1 year, Susan. What do you do in year 2?
Well, and it's interesting too, because even Marshall, you had said you're starting to build at the 12 months, but you want to walk them through the first 5 years. And this kind of, this is a dangerous path to go down because it goes beyond that like new member onboarding, right? But it is important too to think about what are you doing when a member renews. So if they're used to getting these communications for the first 10 to 12 months, and then all of a sudden they renew and then they don't get anything anymore, it's like, does that impact engagement, and does that impact your retention rate moving forward? So it's interesting to see that people are building out like a new member onboarding campaign that goes beyond year 1.
Yeah, just to add to that, what we're specifically looking to do during that first year is not just bring someone on board, but we're picking up data along the way on who our audience is, and that way that we can continue to deliver a catered experience to them and really tailor our messaging, because I work with eye doctors, optometrists all over the country, and specifically what we're wanting to do is cater their experience to their practice setting, because there are different kinds of practice settings that they work in, and we want to deliver benefits that are most relevant to them. So that's when I say 5 years, that's what I'm hoping to do in that follow-up is really cater an experience to them.
Hey, Paul, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot because I know, you, if I'm not mistaken, use that exact language practice area in one of your, I could be mistaken there. You're collecting data and writing it back to your AMS. I forgot which one that is.
Yep, we do that for IMS.
What's your AMS, Paul?
IMS.
IMS. Okay. And Marshall, what are you using for AMS?
Personify is what ours is called.
Oh, okay. Paul, what do you know offhand? What data are you collecting in year 1 for your members?
So data, we're a trade association. So data that we are collecting on the company includes year they're established, how many full-time employees they have, the services they provide. So that practice area that Dave mentioned. For the individual, we look at cell phone number, and then most importantly, job title. Because we are a trade association, we're getting lots of new contacts from existing member companies. We don't always know their job title. That's actually one of our most popular campaigns by response level. It gets a very high response rate. We just want to know a little bit more about you so we can better tailor your membership. What's your job title? And they tell us, and then they get dropped into the marketing churn and all that stuff. But it's useful information to have.
Is anybody else collecting information in year 1? Lily, you were the one that taught me. What was that term called when people were leaving their jobs?
The Great Resignation.
Great Resignation. You taught me that, and clearly it stuck with me. The concept, at least, stayed with me. But it was in that time that you started collecting alternate email address because people would leave. You're in professionals and HR association, PIRA. You realized that people were leaving their jobs and you had no way to keep in touch with them. And so you, by collecting an alternate email address you just did that across the board, not necessarily for new members, right?
Yeah, we did that across the board. We also started collecting cell phone numbers, which is important. I think we need to start doing kind of profile updates because with the Great Resignation, and there's just a lot of movement in jobs, or people are leaving jobs right now too. So it's kind of a constant battle. And we also want to start collecting more demographic data because every time we're trying to do something different, we're like, oh, we need to ask this question a little differently. So that's one of the things I love PropFuel, because I can ask a question, have it right back automatically to our system, which is your membership. So we need to do a little bit more of that on a periodic basis. I also collect birthdays because that's a personal touch we do. We celebrate people's birth dates, just the month in which they were born. And it's pretty interesting how I get emails back saying, oh, thank you so much, because we just give them a digital gift. It's really well, we did have to pay our marketing team to create all these banners and badges and things like that. But that's another thing we use that right back for.
That just reminded me, Air and Space Force Association. I always feel like I mess up that name. They go by AFA. They added Space Forces as well. They do the same thing. They do a birthday message. And this one guy called the membership person back and left a voicemail that was unbelievable. He said, I turned 98 today. And he was just so happy to get this message from AFA. And he was going out ballroom dancing right now, so he has to go. This is a voicemail. He's like, I have to go because I'm going out ballroom dancing right now. But I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am to have received your phone call. I mean, good grief. Yes, he's 98 years old. But dang, going ballroom dancing, that guy appreciated the phone call. High risk of churn there, though. That's true, though. There was an association I worked with where their average age was 74 years old. I mean, not a legitimate reason for not renewing is you died. And does anybody else have a very an elderly membership? I'm wondering if that's a legitimate.
Well, they're not
concern.
90, but that's one of our strategic issues is that we had an older demographic.
Older, yeah.
Yeah, so a
I
lot of
might
the
fall in
baby
that
boomers,
category.
what happened during the pandemic? A lot of people retired. A lot of the baby boomers retired. So one of our issues is that we need to bring in, the younger demographic. So that's kind of why I'm collecting data through PropFuel, is like on age ranges, or what is the right question to ask and what do they want? That's a big thing for us right now because it's not really a great business model to have 90-year-old members, right? So
Yeah, sustainability is an issue. Hey, John, you said you asked about 40 questions. Were you saying that in a way that like with pride? Or are you saying that like, oh my God, we asked 40? Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing that you asked 40 questions? And do you do it in the sign up process?
Good question. So we look at it as a point of pride. It is not part of the sign up process. It's actually one thing that we cover in the onboarding. So it's called the campus profile. And this is probably the case in other industries, but I know within higher education in particular, they're always looking to see what the other institutions are doing. Like the University of Michigan definitely wants to know what the Ohio State University is doing, those kind of things. And so that benchmarking information is pretty significant. The big thing is, I'd say the bulk of the questions are asking about information that you could not find on the internet. Like the enrollment stuff, that's just easy for us, but you could pull that from other sources. But the technology in terms of the different softwares and hardwares they use, that would be very difficult for us to identify externally. So that's just a part there that we do, and it's definitely a value add. Our when we bring on new members and we show them that, their eyes get really big. They didn't realize that was going to be, part of the package.
John, imagine what you could do with, and I'm going to be very specific in a second, but imagine what you could do if you fed that everything you know about each of your members into an AI model that could then create a personalized journey for them all in a super automated way. Like, wouldn't that's true personalization, right? Like that's actual personalization. What we're doing, I like to call it personalization, but it's actually just really, really fine segmenting by asking questions, creating unique journeys for people. They're not actually unique. They're just way more finely segmented than anything else that's ever been done. We're working on and this is something I want to go back to the AI question. We're working on, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the term agents or agentics. It's not like customer service agent. Agentics in AI refers to, it's like a job to be done. So renewals, that's a job to be done. Onboarding, that's a job to be done. We are working on building agents to do those jobs. And the more data you have that can feed the agent, the more personalized the job will be done. It's amazing. So I'd love to hear that. You may be hearing from us as a beta tester of this agent product.
Well, and Dave, just to let you know what we did, one of the things is getting the initial data was easy, but keeping it current was not. So we've actually used prop fuel campaigns to actually update some of those fields.
That's good.
Right.
And that's actually one of the agents that I've been thinking about is a profile agent, which essentially is constantly monitoring profiles and figuring out which profiles are low, which profiles are getting dusty that need to be dusted off, for lack of a better word. It's 1:55. I'm gonna ask right now two things. One, can you please put in the chat a topic that you would like to discuss with your peers? And number two, is there, and if you want to just blurt it out, that's fine too. Are there any last questions for your peers about new member onboarding? Anything that you're leaving here, you're like, dang it, I wish we talked about? Jarmila, I hope I'm saying your name right, Jarmila. I can connect you with some Impexium clients of ours if you want. Would you please send me an email asking me for that though? Dave@propfuel.com. All right, nobody has any other questions? That means a dad joke. We're gonna end it with a dad joke. I cannot guarantee quality with a dad joke, but that's kind of an oxymoron anyway. Here it is. I taught my daughter what a bargain meant. She said, thanks, Dad. That means a great deal. It's a great deal. All right. Fair enough. You guys come to the table with a dad joke if you don't like mine. Hey, very, very nice to see you all. I really appreciate your participation. Sincerely, I love when you guys jump in and contribute and we can learn from each other. And forgive me if I talk too much in these things. I do that when I get nervous and I do that when I get excited. All right. We'll see you next. We'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.